torture, excruciating pain, horrific suffering, dying of thirst, being starved to death. When we think of torture, we think of criminals. We think of murderers and terrorists. We don't think of the innocent person being subject to torture, yet many are every single day. My dad was suffered and tortured to death. My name is Melissa, and I come from an all-American family, a father, a mother, 2 sisters, a brother, a dog, 2 hamsters. We were middle class. My dad worked very hard to provide for us. He was a good man. He was not a terrorist, and he was not a murderer. His only crime was being diagnosed with cancer. He had a terrible end to a very good life. Many terminally ill people are tortured in this way. In the final phase of their life, they are bedridden. The doctors can't do anything more for them. They are dying. Their pain goes on day after day after day, and their family and friends sit by their side helpless. There's nothing they can do for them but watch. Watching our loved ones die slowly is awful. Most of us have experienced it. All of us will at one time. There is an antidote to this, though, and that is a physician assisting in a peaceful death. This is called euthanasia. In the Webster's Dictionary, it defines euthanasia as the act or practice of killing or permitting the death of hopelessly sick or injured individuals in a relatively painless way for reasons of mercy. It sounds so simple and merciful, but some still don't believe in it. Some think, though, that there's something wrong with it. Others, who are on their deathbed, would call it an act of mercy, would call it a godsend. In the book, Death with Dignity, many people tell their stories of their loved ones dying. A natural death, a painful death. One story, a man named Theodore, he was an 80-year-old man suffering from pneumonia, kidney failure, liver failure, many other ailments. He had a feeding tube in his neck. He was on respirators. And there's nothing the doctors can do for him. His son Keith sat by his bedside daily. His father would cry out to him, "Kill me, please kill me." Keith couldn't. He just had to sit there and watch him suffer for months. Keith explains his ordeal like this. He says, the doctors and nurses who desperately tried to save his life managed only to torture him. They didn't try to, but they had to. The laws made them do it. He said, my father needed it to stop. What are my options when my dad says, kill me? Or what are my options when my dad is in a coma and can't tell me a darn thing? Could this be considered cruel and unusual punishment? I believe it is, for the patient and for the families. Another story is a person named Sally. She was a 50-year-old mother of 2 teenage sons. She was very young. She was in the ICU for congestive heart failure. Sally didn't respond to antibiotic therapy. She underwent a thoracotomy, a tube in her throat. She was intubated. She would write, because she couldn't speak, she would write, "Let me die," to her husband, even to her kids. The kids and the husband just sat there and watched her deteriorate every day. They watched her die. It's so hard for loved ones. But our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do but sit and watch them suffer. If euthanasia was legal, it could mean a death free of pain, free of anxiety. Some states it is legal. Oregon is one. The Netherlands is one. Some of them are looking at it and investigating it and moving toward legalizing it. I believe it needs to be legal worldwide. Oregon voters passed the Death with Dignity Act in 1997, and it reads, "We allow terminally ill adult Oregonians to obtain and use prescriptions from their physicians for self-administered lethal doses of medication." In Oregon, in 79% of patients last year used the drug secobarbital. The medication is mixed with liquid, and patients drink it. It acts quickly, and it's painless. An American Medical News article quoted Dr. Gideon from Portland, Oregon, saying that his patients will slip into a deep unconsciousness. He said it's very, very painless. It's very, very peaceful. He says, I don't think anybody took longer than an hour. Family members will comment how peaceful they look. The concern in their face just went away. I do believe that physician-assisted suicide is the right answer for us and that it should be legalized worldwide. Well, because this life and death situation is a big one to make, a huge one to make, it comes with a lot of controversy. I'd like to take the time to defeat some of those conflicting arguments. Some argue that this was made legal. If this was made legal, we would not be able to draw the line between acceptable and unacceptable killings, and that we might choose to kill a group that just doesn't seem fit. The notorious death camps of Nazi Germany are frequently offered as evidence of humans not being able to avoid the slide of the slippery slope. My rebuttal is in Oregon and the Netherlands. They show no evidence of the slippery slope. This is not Nazi Germany time. This is 2014. This is a weak counter-argument. Another counter-argument is that minorities, disabled and elderly, could not afford health care to heal their ailments, and so that they would choose euthanasia so as not to bankrupt their families. That's so sad. It's just not true, though. Oregon has safeguards in place to protect the vulnerable. There's a mandatory physician-assisted counseling and euthanasia practices. This is where options will be given about life and end-of-life care. Above all, the patient's needs come first. That's the bottom line. We're here for the patients. Most of the world's laws about physician-assisted suicide prevent our doctors from helping us die with dignity when we request it. We must repeal these laws. We must fight them in our individual states. We can all make a difference. We don't have to continue needless suffering. Euthanasia, which in Greek means an easy and gentle death, is the answer. This is the most humane and painless final exit. Thank you for listening.